everybody, this is Skeet.
Russian Mikey.
Rock and Roll Roundtable.
Absolutely. Our good friends at Moshman Media putting this little program on for us today.
This week, heroes and villains of rock.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those opinion shows for sure.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, you can rely on what other people say or stuff that they've done that you think's a dick move, or the good things people do. Extra out of the ordinary nice stuff that some rock and metal musicians do. But it's basically our opinion in the long run because some people view it as mean and evil and vindictive, and other people say it's just vindicated or it's just their personality. You get it's almost like movie stars or politicians or anything else. Some people love them, some people don't love them. They
Yeah.
hate them, whatever. There's very few that I can actually point out that I will use the big H word for. There is a couple. There is a couple that I just think are shit human beings, but I mean, I guess we could start with the good. And I compiled somewhat of a list here, and we'll kind of go off of that. And people are going to argue some of these. I get it. And there's a reason some of them are on the list on both sides because, okay, so you just got to bear with me on this one. But I'm going to start out the good list with Mr. John Bon Jovi.
Okay.
Now, people can ask why John Bon Jovi would be the first name I think of. John Bon Jovi owns a kitchen in New Jersey, I think it is. I'm pretty sure it's in New Jersey, but it's like a kitchen that he actually goes in and washes dishes at. He helps out the people that run this kitchen. It's a non-profit kitchen thing he
Soup
does,
kitchen, right?
where he feeds homeless people. And he works at this place, helping them out, washing the dishes. He's a rock star who doesn't think it's beneath him to wash dishes, which I think is, I don't know how much more salt of the earth you can really be than as a human being to do that. And knowing he gets some hate for his voice now kind of bothers me. Other people will say he's kind of arrogant, blah, blah. I don't care what he's kind of like. To do that puts him in the good. It puts him as a hero to me. I mean, stuff you don't have to do that you do just for the greater good of humanity is hero status.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's a great singer and musician at this point in his career really doesn't matter to me as far as this goes. So that's my take on John Bon Jovi. If you have anything to add or interject, let me know.
Well, I mean, a lot of these people that we're probably going to talk about, they've, they've got a reputation as being a good guy or a hero. And
Yeah.
I mean, for John doing that, I mean, and we reported on
Yeah.
not too long ago where some lady was going to throw herself off a bridge or something.
Yes, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
So, and he went out there as, as a person, regular person. Okay. Hey, and it got a little press, but you don't look to do stuff like that. It just happened. So,
Right.
that makes him a hero to go out of his
Yeah.
way for
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
he doesn't know to try to keep them from doing something to hurt themselves. I'll agree with that.
Yeah. I agree 100%. But I had, I mean, even that even makes it better because I had almost forgotten about that. And that's a shame that I almost forgot, about something that critical, like saving somebody from jumping off a bridge. So yeah, it's one of those things. He's a soul of the earth guy. He was a great in the back in the day, and he's still decent. I don't care. I mean, he might have had a bad tour, but they're coming out with a new album and stuff, so they're still doing stuff. And it's like, God bless you, John Bon Jovi. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, and you know, and people, you know, have given him crap about, you know, the split with Richie Sambora.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's like sometimes people just, you make decisions that affect your band or your career that might be a dick move, but I
yeah,
go for, I'm looking at what you do overall.
right.
And
That's
there's going
how
to
I
be
feel.
some people, there's going to probably be some people that hit this list that I don't agree with some of the things they say or do, but they might fall under that hero thing just from the charity that they provide.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, the next couple I have are actually on the list on both sides.
Okay.
So Dave Grohl, okay, everybody talks about how nice of a person if they meet Dave Grohl. They say he's just this fun-loving, carefree kind of guy, and he does a lot of stuff outside the box for charity work. He does a lot of things, plays shows for charities a lot. Will fill in on the drums for people at a charity show just to have a drummer or get to play drums for them. And I've heard that about him a lot. Now I won't do his villain status yet, but he's going to be in the villain side too. So
Yeah.
it just goes to show you that people are human. But I got to give him benefit of the doubt that everybody that talks to him says he's a good person. And all the interviews, he seems like a genuinely good person. He's helped his daughter get into the music career. You know, he's trying to do things like that. So it's like I'm going to say that overall, he's probably a better hero than a villain.
Okay.
You know, as far as he goes,
I'll
and
give
that
you
brings
that.
me to yeah, yeah, and along with that, being in the double digit category, I have Ivan Moody from Five Finger Death Punch. This guy goes out of his way, especially for military people, veterans, uh, organizations that sponsor veterans. And I know he stops. I've seen him on video a few times, stopping fights, stopping the show, which a lot of people do that, but he stops the show. And what made me say Ivan Moody on the good side here was when I went to Louder Than Life and they were playing. There was a small kid getting smacked around pretty good in the pit. So he not only, he got him out of the pit, stopped the show, got him out of the pit, had him and his dad both come up there, and they watched the rest of the show from the stage. Pretty, pretty salt of the earth. Now, has he had troubles in the past before sobriety kicked in? Sure, sure. He was a rock star to its truest extent. We'll talk. I mean, kind of go on him is he was drunk and got belligerent with his own band. He'd get belligerent with other people. He worked through those. So he went from being a villain to being a good person. And the band seemingly rolling along. You don't hear about any drama with him anymore, but just the military and the kindness for the crowd, his fans. Pretty good guy. Now I can't say exactly what organizations or anything, but they're there. So that's a good one. We'll go to an oldie but a goodie. This guy has been for the genre he plays music in. It's weird to hear it, but Alice Cooper,
Yeah.
just genuinely known as a phenomenal human being. And I know we don't put religion into much on the show, of course, but he is a minister. I mean, he's an ordained minister. He's a religious guy. He absolutely talks about it openly. But just think of the people he's affected in his life that he's had playing the band for. Nita Strauss, perfect example. He's had her in there, or what Oranathi, wasn't she in Alice
Yeah,
Cooper too?
Orianthi. Yeah, she was a.
Orianthi, and you've heard of other people. I think Kip Winger was the bass player for a while for him. So he's also mentored a lot of people. And then just this past week, he had a song come out. I haven't got to listen to it yet, but he went out of his way and reunited his original band, the very first original band, 51 years in the making, to
Yeah.
do an album together. So that's going to be cool. And he could have forgot about all those people. He could have said, I'm the famous one. You guys were long gone, but that's kind of a good person to do that. So that's my tick on Alice Cooper. I don't know if you had anything else about Alice, but if not, that's fine too. I know that's the only thing. I'm just genuinely nice man. Is what I've heard.
Well, I mean, Alice Cooper. I think he's done the soup kitchens just out of the blue. I remember seeing a few years ago there was pics floating around of him serving like dinner for
I can
homeless
see that.
or stuff like that. So, I have to, I'll, for someone who was so spooky and scary at the beginning of
Yeah.
his career that might have got some bad raps. I mean, you know,
Yeah. And he could have been kind of different back in the early 70s, but it's been a long time that I've heard this. I mean,
yeah,
just, nobody has a bad word to say about Alice Cooper in any way, shape, or form. So it's pretty good. Now, the next couple I got on the list are, what do you call that, after posthumanists? So that they're no longer with us. They're dead,
oh, okay,
deceased.
okay,
But what they were doing when they were alive was pretty special. And for my kind of age group, or Gen X group, and I'll lump them together because they were close friends anyway. Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington. These guys were advocates for child trafficking against that. They were working very hard to work on
yeah,
that stuff. They were a lot of stuff I knew I seen them do was like for kids, like Make a Wish, stuff like that. Um, Chris also, his daughter, he mentored her. He wanted her to be, a musical person. And I think when you seen Chris Cornell, to me anyway, when I saw Chris Cornell sing ballad type songs and Chester sing these songs that meant something to them, you could just see they were genuinely believing what they were singing about. And I don't know what all organizations these people are into, but for me, just seeing them from the outside, they seem genuinely good people. And everybody that knew them was in the bands with them. You know, great people. Never had a beef. Never had an argument. Even though Cornell left Soundgarden and did, Audio Slave, those guys loved him too. And his old band members in Soundgarden still, they still put him up there. They say,
yeah.
he was just an awesome person in general. So yeah, I kind of lump those two together as good people. Now we talked about Alice Cooper and that kind of genre, that kind of shock rock deal he was at. When you think of Slayer, you usually don't think of here's a bunch of good, heartfelt, soul, glorious people. But Tom Araya is a family man, a devout Catholic. He works with Catholic services. He's genuinely every interview I've ever seen. He laughs. He makes the interviewer feel welcome, and he explains everything in full detail that I've ever seen. Why they did what they did with the whole persona of Slayer. They didn't want to be a hair band. they wanted to, they were in the 80s, 81, 82 era. They didn't want to be like that. They wanted something completely different, off the rails different, shocking. So I think he'll get a lot of bad rep because of Slayer, because of the lyrics. And he didn't write all the lyrics either. A lot of them were Hanneman, Kerry King. Not saying they're bad people, but I'm just saying he wasn't the songwriter. But he never backs away from being religious man. He
Yeah.
never backs away from being a family man. And I just think he seems like the kind of guy I could hang out with. It just genuinely seems like a good person. I don't know what else to say
Yeah.
about that. I mean, you get a bad rep because of and some people deserve it. Some people in those genres are going to deserve the hate. They're going to deserve it. I don't think Tom Araya does. And speaking as somebody who's never met the man, but he seems genuine to me. So I call him here. Uh, Mike Portnoy is one that I see doing, drum videos and interviews. He's just happy, man. He's just
Yeah.
high on life, happy, even as a perfectionist that he's had to be with Dream Theater. But he filled in for the Rev in Avenged Sevenfold when he passed away. He's done plenty of benefit shows, playing drums for people that have causes or people that have passed. Or I mean, he does videos playing drums on a Hello Kitty drum set for that. So lighthearted. And I've seen him on videos where he'll have to play something he's never heard in his life, like Drumeo does. And dude just has a blast with it. No disrespect. He never disrespects another band. Because, the band he had to play when I saw the Drumeo version was Nickelback. And, being in like a power metal band like Dream Theater, he would think Nickelback, he would think, oh, come on. But no, he loves Nickelback. He's talked about, and it's like he genuinely just has a good feel about it. And all the work he's done for other bands, it's like he's got to be a good dude because nobody would want him around if he was a villain. You know,
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about him. Because a lot of these, let's be honest, a lot of these people we don't know personally.
No, not
We've
at all.
never we never met them. So I go by the hero just if I would want to hang out with them or not. It's kind of a lot of it. It's kind of like every interview you see or any or interaction between other bands and stuff. I kind of make that determination whether these people seem to be happy to be around this guy. And that's kind of the way it is with Portnoy. So another one I got. This is one that's got good and evil in the same band. And there's a couple of them. But I've never seen Slash look unhappy.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the drama they had with GNR back in the day, you never heard Slash's name come up when there was feuds with, let's say, Axel and Nirvana or Motley Crue. I never heard anybody saying that Slash is an asshole too. It's always Slash just like I'm just here to play guitar, man. And he seems to genuinely love to play the guitar. He
Yeah.
doesn't care for the drama. He shows up to about every damn benefit
Yeah.
or awards show or anybody. I think anybody could call him and say, dude, would you play a song here? Absolutely.
Well, so I saw not too long ago there was like a school of rock going on, and they were playing "Sweet Child of Mine" of the students. So these are all
Yeah.
kids, and who comes out on stage but Mr. Slash himself,
Nice.
and starts playing with them, and they didn't realize it at first, and then they kind of like turn around and it's like, oh wow, it's Slash.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So they're, yeah, they're playing
yeah.
along, and then they did all the thing with the afterwards of the kids coming up and all that stuff. So yeah, I would say out of Guns N' Roses, that's your hero.
Yeah.
So do we want to talk about the villain of Guns N' Roses since we're on
Well,
Guns N' Roses?
we can. I have two separate lists, but I mean, if
Okay,
you
yeah,
want to
we
go
can do
ahead,
that in a little bit if you want.
yeah, we got to get to the villains sooner or later. We're trying to start out on a good note, so
Okay, okay, let's stay
we'll get on
positive
with it.
then.
I got one that you'll like. You'll like this one a lot, and it's another guy I've never seen upset, and has had to deal with a lot of stress and pressure, but he never shows it. I say Wolfgang Van Halen would be
Yeah,
a very cool dude to hang out.
yeah,
I just think playing bass for Van Halen when he did, and I didn't even know the dude could play guitar, but he's humble as you can be. I mean, he just seems, for as good as he is, he doesn't drag, hey, I'm Eddie's kid. He just is his name. He uses that, sure. But he didn't hug on the Van Halen. He did Mammoth. He wanted to do his own thing. But every time he speaks of his father, it's absolutely nothing but respect. And his uncle. But a lot of other guitar players, he's on a interview or something. Somebody's talking to him about his influences. Nothing but praise. You don't hear him say a word sideways.
yeah.
And I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know what it is about him because I'm not that into his private life, but he just seems like, yeah, he'd be cool. I mean, he didn't have to be. He could be a spoiled, entitled fucking brat. I mean, Eddie Van Halen's your dad, Valerie Bertinelli's your fucking mom, and you're still humble and modest from what I can tell.
Yeah, for the
And
most part,
he's
yeah.
phenomenal guitar player too. I mean, it's just he could be arrogant as shit, and
Well,
he's not.
and
Apparently, he's
and
not.
Wolfie might troll a little bit on X, and I've seen him
Okay,
stand up. He stands up for his dad
okay,
quite a
that's
bit. So if
fair.
somebody bad talks his dad, he goes to bat pretty. Yeah, he'll go hardcore.
Well,
So
that's hero. That's hero to me. Standing up for your dad.
so and
That's it.
speaking of Wolfie, you might as well throw his dad Eddie Van Halen into the heroes. Now I know there's probably people that you know feuding with David Lee or feuding with Sammy Hagar, but Eddie, for the most part, he had Mr. Holland's Opus, where he was donating instruments to kids in schools. He was part of that program, and I don't know how many tribute shows back in the day before he passed that he would be on and just play for the joy of playing, and all sorts of charity work where he would go and play for shows. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I
Yeah.
think back in the day he did something with Cheech Marin trying to raise
Okay.
money in California. I remember seeing a show where they were trying to raise funds. So besides him being my personal hero on guitar,
Right.
for the most part, I've heard more good than bad for Eddie Van Halen. So
Yeah. I mean, really, the only bad I ever heard so much about Eddie, besides being a perfectionist, which most good, great, awesome guitar players are. Yeah, he would get a little angry about spats with Dave and then later with Sammy. But I mean, everybody has bad days. I'm not going to call somebody a villain because people they
yeah,
spend 24/7 with for 9 months out of the year don't have a little family
feud.
disagreement. I mean, it's just I didn't have him on the list, but I didn't have him on the villains list either. So I guess that's a good thing. Uh, this is another Lizzie Hale. I mean, you can't look sideways now in today's age without seeing Lizzie Hale somewhere. Some people regard her as the most talented musician on the planet at this point in time. And it's like, I've heard that a couple times. I've heard a lot of things about her, but I've never heard anything bad. I've never heard you know, she, even when she was doing Skid Row music, doing, or was it, yeah, it was Skid Row, wasn't it?
Yeah,
She did those shows with Skid Row to help them out. And that was kind and now today's age, that's a pretty big step down for her. But she did it because number one, she loves the music, and number two, to help some brothers out. And everywhere I turn, she's happy go lucky. She's constantly just enjoying life. And she's another one of those that I could say she probably does a shit ton of charity stuff that doesn't get mentioned. You know, her brother's been with her for a long time in the band, so if they couldn't stand each other, you wouldn't see Hailstorm doing so well. So
yeah.
that's one of those things. I would say she's a great, awesome person to hang out. Uh, well, we just talked about this guy not too long ago. At least from a certain point of view, was Kip Winger, and I know he's had some difficulty. 'Cause I've seen him blow up on stage at least once, so he's not always perfect. Which is nobody is perfect. But just going by him writing a whole album about the time he spent playing for the troops is pretty cool to me. I'd say that's heroic in my mind. Not only that, as a selfish music listener, for him to know when it's time to go, again, a hero status, because he's not going to leave people with this negative legacy of what they were. That's not really what we're talking about so much music wise, but just as a person, I mean, to have the same lineup for 30 some years, you can't be too big of a dick. I mean, and I never heard Kip, even though they got drugged through the mud with the Lars Ulrich throwing the dart at his, they were using him as a dartboard, or the winger on the Beavis and Butthead being the dorky kind of kid. He could have come back and all that. Now, did he? I don't know. I never heard it. So I'm just going to say, in my mind, Kip Winger's still on the hero side of things. Yeah, that's for that.
Well, I
Uh,
mean,
yeah,
there's only so much a person can take. So
yeah,
there's people that you could say, well, I remember this time at this meet and greet or this or that where they were kind of short with somebody. Yeah, you're gonna fucking have that shit. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah,
I've done a few meet and greets. Uh, for me, Billy Sheehan was so down to earth. I wanted to throw him in this heroes mix because
uh,
he would also play charity shows and do all sorts of stuff. And actually getting to meet him, he could have been short with me and been like, "Oh yeah, hey, how's it going? Meet and greet, whatever, blah blah blah." And we actually, had a good 5 minute chat about equipment and what he used, and he didn't have to do that, but he seemed like he
right,
was pretty salt of the earth, like you said,
yeah.
down to earth person, and
And
was one of the better meet and greets I've had. And I met with the other guys, but that was one where we actually kind of was talking on an even level. There was no rock star ego trip going on that whole time. So I
right,
was
yeah,
impressed. So for me,
yeah,
Billy Sheehan's ranks way up there.
yeah. I mean, they're when we use the word heroes on here, we also just mean good guys and girls. It's like they can just be personal experience. I went by a lot of personal experience from bands I've met, people I've met. Like you could throw, I'm sure, George Lynch in
Yeah.
because he
Oh
was as
God. Yeah.
nice as pie to you both times
Yes.
you met him. Yeah.
So
So, yeah, I mean, I had the one bad experience, not personally, but I could see he was put off when I saw him one time. But every other time I've ever seen or heard anything about him, he's been fantastic. So,
well,
yeah,
and you know, it was kind of cool that time that we went to see him. and his son was his guitar tech,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and our buddy was there and was like, "Can I touch that guitar?" And he kind of laughed a little bit. He was like, "Yeah, go ahead." And our buddy just kind of reached out and touched George's guitar, and that's all he did. He was like, "Oh man, thanks." So even it rubbed off on his son as far as George
yeah,
Lynch goes. And he was excellent. The guy was fucking
yeah,
tired when I met him at Sweetwater. He just had done his guitar clinic thing and was taking questions and all that stuff, and met the fans afterwards and signed everything anybody brought him. And you could tell he was tired. He was dragging
yeah,
ass, and we were the last two people to meet the man, and he still signed our stuff and you know chatted with us for just a few fucking minutes, and we was respectful. It's been like, thank you so much. It's great meeting you, and go get some rest, dude. And he's like, yeah,
yeah,
thanks.
yeah,
So, I met him twice, and I was like, he's a good fucking guy.
yeah.
So for all the years where people were giving him shit for maybe fighting with Don, I, I didn't
Well,
see
yeah,
it. At least he puts on a good front if he's that way, in his private life. Who knows? But as
yeah.
far
And the
as
one,
interacting with people, fucking he's up there.
yeah, like I said, the couple interactions I've had with people that were negative was like there was a reason behind it. Like his son actually at that night that he said he's having a horrible night. He doesn't feel
Yeah,
good. He's sick. So he let us know that, which is nice. And when like Kip Winger threw a fit at the sound man at Louder Than Lima, you know, it was because it was heading for a heartbreak and you couldn't hear the keyboard. I absolutely understood. And he apologized as soon as he said it. He goes, "Hey, I can't hear." He stopped it and he goes, "I can't hear the fucking keyboard. They're kind of instrumental in the whole song."
yeah,
And he said, "I apologize, but it's just a very important part." And they went right on and got it fixed and went. So it's like he noticed he was just being a perfectionist. That's how he was. Now we don't have time. I mean, we don't want to be here for 4 hours or nothing on this
yeah,
show. So I'll run through some people that I think are good on the good side that I you probably agree with most of these. Brett Michaels, he's always patriotic, always does a lot of charity stuff. Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach is genuinely a happy looking guy all the time. Miles Kennedy, he's been known to be a good guy. Definitely LeJean Weatherspoon from Seven Dust. He's salt of the earth. I met him. It's just he's a great guy. Mark Tremonti from Creed is known to be, yeah, he does a lot of different things. So yeah, and some of these I looked up. Other people was talking in forums about them. They've met them. Caleb Shomo from Beartooth, Chris Daughtry. They all seem like they would be anyway, but these people
yeah,
have met them. Say, yeah, Queen does a shit ton of. They've always done a shit ton of charity work, handwritten letters back to their fans. I mean, they've done a lot of stuff over the years. So definitely there. I'm going to put Ginger in there.
yeah,
I've met him twice.
yeah,
Nicest people on the fucking planet. Humble, very, they could a couple of barely speak English, but they made an attempt. They hugged you. They, just chit chat with you both times for a couple minutes and just salt of the earth people. Uh, Striper, same. One of my dreams was to meet Striper and did that. Got to take a selfie on stage with Striper. Very cool. Liliac, I talked to them when I saw BMI when they were first starting out. All nice, respectable younger people. Definitely, Courtney Cox was at that show too, or the show before that. She was a sweetheart to talk to. No ego, funny, kind of goofy. That's what she kind of comes off to me as, anyway. You met a couple, Nita Strauss, Casey Carlson. They were both cool. I
yep,
know.
yep,
You told me your experience with them was off the chain. It was nice. Mikey Muir from Suicidal
Yeah,
talked to him through a guarding, like a fence guarding in Hara Arena back in 1988. But he came all the way over just to, to give you the fist bump. Made my lifetime at that point. Jamie Jasta, Kirk Winstein from Kingdom of Sorrow, met them, had them sign a bunch of shit, took a bunch of pictures, just very humble people. Shannon Larkin, the drummer for Godsmack, wife was a big fan, waited in line. He was cordial, talked to her, smiled, took his picture, wrote and signed her stuff. So, yeah, it's just generally, I met a lot of people at these festivals from everybody from Straight Line Stitch to Whitechapel. I've never had a bad experience with these people. I never had an arrogant sign your shit and move it on down the line kind of
yeah,
attitude. So I've been blessed with people I've actually met, and there's so many heroes, dude, that we're missing, and I
yeah.
absolutely know that.
Well,
But
I'll give out a shout out for a couple because
okay,
Burning Witches, they were awesome. Did a meet and greet with them, and actually saw them at a show that they played beforehand, and they were more than glad to take pictures with the fans, and you know, so they were awesome. Everybody in that band, uh, Iron Maidens were real cool.
yeah, yeah,
So everyone that was in the Iron Maidens was real cool. It, we just saw Rolling Quartz at a show last night, and they were awesome. They were very, very friendly with the fans, and they put on a great show. So they seemed like they would be some nice people. I met the Foxies at a Billy Idol show, and they were out after the show that they opened up for. They were out and they were taking pictures with fans, and everybody seemed real nice. So I'll give them a shout out. I didn't get to meet Scott Ian, but I want to throw him in there. He seems like one of those guys that, because he's played with everybody and he's always doing stuff. And they were doing a bunch of shows during shutdown to entertain people. So, and he goes to like the horror conventions all the time. So I'm sure Scott Ian is probably one of those guys where you go, that's a good dude. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely could see that.
Uh, uh, Ricky Rocket from Poison. I got to meet him. He was real cool, real nice, and got along. He waited and got everybody in that was there, and there was probably 150 people, and he took the time to each person where he was getting at least a picture, signing something they had. Very nice guy. So I want to throw him in there. You mentioned Brett. I'm going to
Yeah,
mention him, Ricky Rocket. So Lita Ford was actually really really nice, and I've
yeah,
heard that she had a reputation there for a while where people were kind of like, well, she's kind of standoffish and this and that. I had a great experience and met her at
yeah,
BMI, and she was real nice and talked to me for just a couple minutes. I want to be respectful, but you know that
yeah,
went a long way for me. It's like, hey, don't bad talk Lita. Don't ever bad talk
yeah,
Lita, because she might have had a bad day, or people might have asked her to sign something and she was like, I'm not signing things at this. I'm just, meeting the fans. And if she got upset, hey, tough shit, man.
yeah,
Some of these meet and greets, the new kids on the block, for God's sakes, were fucking awesome.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
I think
Donnie gave me a hug. He's like, come on,
yeah,
bring it in here. And I was like, okay.
I'd be more impressed because he was on Blue Bloods than New
you
Kids. But hey,
know,
I would
so
take it.
and all those guys were great at that. And there was
Yeah, yeah.
people, being all crazy
Goofy.
because it was new
Yeah,
kids, but they were nice to everybody. So you know, they could have
Yeah, and
been like, ah, here and go, here and go.
yeah, it's like being a parent of being Gen X our age and having kids too. It's like I've seen my kids, two of them, absolutely melt down having a meet and greet, cry, the whole thing. But that was my daughter, not my son. No,
Yeah.
my daughters. But that was asking Alexandria. Those guys were super polite. They hugged her and like, it's okay, it's okay. We're just people. We appreciate you love us, this and that. And then, my son got to meet all the guys in Slipknot, freaking out. And it was like, but, they could just say, they made a moment in time for those kids that they don't even realize sometimes. Or you get a one bad day and people think of that forever. So
Yeah.
they're under the eye all the time.
Yeah.
You could have one bad, like you said, Lita Ford, one bad experience somebody has, and they shoot it all over the place, not knowing that she was just having a rotten fucking day. If we lived our life that way, God, how many people think I'm an asshole? I'm
Oh,
not saying I'm not, but I could be a nice guy too. It depends on what day you catch me. It's just the way it is. But yeah, so a whole shit ton of heroes, and that's cool. Now we'll switch over to the villain side. And some of them we won't have to go into because you'll know. You'll know they're villain. And we just talked about this guy recently too. The heel of all heels who loves to be the stirrer of the shit pot is Ronnie Radke right now. And he just loves digging into people. It doesn't matter if they're a celebrity or just somebody posted on his TikTok. He will make it a point of his life to roast the living fuck out of you. Now, some people will say, like me, that I had to learn it's part of his shtick, kind of, sort of. But he could genuinely be kind of an asshole. We don't know. I don't know the guy, but that he's on that side. Now we go into like the '80s. He can have a shit ton. We have a shit ton. Sebastian Bach, man, known as a fucking dick, and I could see that. I really can. I could see him
now,
being nice.
but on the same time, I'm sure that Sebastian has. I think he's done some shows and appeared and done stuff, even though he's kind of been a prima donna. You got to see a
Yeah,
little bit of that when he did that TV show.
yeah, oh yeah.
So that he might be one where you go, he's got the reputation of a villain, but is he really?
Oh,
Maybe,
he's
maybe
he,
not.
he's proven it more than I mean, just by telling people this guy you suck, or that's you're a fucking idiot. And it's people that really like when he called Michael Sweetout, said Striper was just fucking horrible. Of course, that pissed me off.
Yeah,
But Michael's not one to back down. Michael's confrontational guy when he wants to be. But they got on. They had a cruise ship together or something. They worked it out. So he must be somewhat reasonable. But sometimes I think he runs his mouth before he thinks. He's one of those type, kind of like he had a brain aneurysm and he just spits out what he said, what he's thinking. He doesn't think about anybody's feelings or, you
yeah,
know, Skid Row not wanting to do a tour with him again kind of tells me a lot. Either those guys are just assholes or they just don't like him. And he's done good too. He's had to have done good things, but there's got to be a villains list. So I had
yeah,
to put him on the villains list.
yeah.
Done more bad than good at some point. Chad Kroger from Nickelback. He might be a nice guy, but he feeds into the hate they get, and I think he comes across as very arrogant, cocky, kind of condescending. So I put him on the villains list because a lot of people just don't like the guy. They don't like him for the Avril Lavigne shit, even. The
Yeah.
whole breaking up with Avril kind of stuff. Whatever. Now, here's a two-sided one for you. Aaron Lewis, because some people will love him, say, oh, he's so this and that. I've seen him whine and cry too many times. I've just seen it. Bitching at the crowd because they weren't completely silent when he was playing. Fuck, come on, dude. It's a fucking rock show. I don't care if unless you're saying give somebody a moment of silence for passing away or something, then shut the fuck up. You're up there playing. They could be talking. You're playing like clubs that are like dinner theaters. Shit, just piss off with that. So I definitely had him as a villain. And some of my other side of the coin, some people are going to come at me for that because they just love Aaron Lewis because he's so, patriotic and all this shit. I don't
Well,
care. That's great. You're patriotic. But you don't need to be condescending to people that are paying money while you're drunk playing a song and they don't want to fully listen to it. That's their prerogative. You don't have to do it. But anyway, I won't get on the rant about Aaron Lewis. Here's an easy one for people our age that it's not a metal band by any means. It's barely rock, kind of, sort of. But if you remember, Liam Gallagher from Oasis. Oh my God. Oh, they're going to be bigger than the Beatles. The pretentious arguing with his brother on stage all the time, walking off shows in the middle. Just no regard for his fans, no regard for his bandmates. Just overall an asshole. Just a British snob, if you want. They actually got into a fight in a parking lot one time, him and his brother. Yeah, he's a villain. And not a bad singer. I won't. God, I liked Oasis. I did like some Oasis songs. I really did. But yeah, he's full blown villain.
well, would you throw
Oh,
in the brothers from the Black Crows?
yeah, they're kind of on there. I don't think I had them on the list, but that makes sense. I mean, they're Chris gets more of the attention because he's the front guy, but his brother probably eggs him on too. And they've had some classics over the years.
So I
So,
mean, so does that kind of make he falls into the villain because he's just kind of an ass and he fights with his
yeah.
brother? Is that?
Well,
I mean, we're kind of reaching. We're reaching. I don't really
no,
think
no,
people's
you're
evil.
not. Yeah, but you're not reaching. I'm not reaching when you walk off the show, a stage of a show halfway through. That
Well,
makes you an
yeah,
asshole. And when you just constantly, sit down and quit singing, and just because somebody pissed him off or something hit it wrong, he would sit down on the stage and just sit there, and his brother would have to try to take over for vocals. That's just being a dick. There's no other way of hiding that.
Oh,
He's
so
known to.
what was the fucking guy from Puddle Mud?
That's Wes.
Okay,
Yeah, Wes is on my list. Yes.
okay. I was waiting if you
Yeah.
were going to get to that or not.
Not only does he like to argue with the crowd and cause multiple headaches for his band members, but just the fact that he didn't seem to care when he did it. That puts me in a thought process of you're arrogant when you don't need to be, or you're really bad into drugs, which I think he was. He's trying to straighten up. They're actually together again,
Okay,
trying to do new music and stuff. I hope the best for him. I think they were super talented when they came out. He just hit that addiction wall. And sometimes, to be completely honest, addiction makes people villains. They weren't villains before they got hooked on whatever bad shit they're on. So he might be the nicest guy we'll ever meet. He just hasn't been able to show it yet. It makes a difference. It does. Like what I talked about with Ivan Moody. He was known as a kind of a dickhead. And since he got straightened out and sober, he's fantastic, according to everybody. So yeah, that plays into a lot of it. But Liam Gallagher, I'll go to my deathbed. That guy's a dick. At least he was. He might be okay now. Back in their heyday, he was a tool. This one's controversial for some people, and I gotta say she's a villain only because she is known to break up the Beatles. Got to be
oh
Yoko
god,
Ono. And the hideous noises she makes during some of the songs, we talked about the Chuck Berry song
yeah, oh yeah,
when
yeah,
him and John Lennon did Memphis or whatever,
yeah,
and she started doing that weird tribal shit, screaming, whatever. So I think people dislike her for that, and they dislike her for being the supposed cause of breaking up the Beatles.
yeah.
No other reason. I don't have any. She might be a nice. nicest person ever. Who knows?
Yeah, and I
But
think
yeah,
honestly, Yoko and John, they did a lot of shows for people, like, raising money and
yeah,
stuff. So I sometimes you could do nice things, but you're gonna get a rap as being an asshole. I mean,
yeah,
maybe we should have called it
absolutely.
heroes and assholes, because that's
Yeah, and like I said, there's a couple people that are on this list. What they're on both sides, and it's just a matter of opinion. It's just your opinion is going to be yours, my opinion is going to be mine, and it's like I don't hate Yoko Ono for anything. I don't think she's a horrible person, but she gets that villain rap because of the Beatles deal
yeah.
and the whatever screaming she does. I don't know. I just don't understand that. It's fine. The next one, this one's tough for me because I'm a big Kurt Cobain fan. It's Courtney Love. I
Ugh,
mean, she's on the villain list because number one, they still people believe that she paid somebody to whack Kurt, which that's unfounded horse shit. You don't know. She was a loon in a little bit when she was really on the drug scene, which I said, we know. But the whole holding the catalog from like Dave and Kurt or Chris at that time when she was doing that, I think she's since not done that anymore, but that was kind of a dick move on her part. And, so I don't, I think she's a villain for that stuff. As a person, I don't know
yeah.
her, but she's done some crazy shit too, like play with her tits out. Which that's fun, nothing wrong with that. But some people would look at that as being showboatish or standoff, arrogant, whatever. So yeah, I got to put her in the villain category uh, for that stuff, for the
Okay.
Kurt stuff, and the rumors are rumors, but yeah. Uh, there's a couple punk ones on here, which punks are supposed to be punks.
Yeah.
Some of them went over the edge a little bit. Sid Vicious was known as just a nut job back in the day. Now I
Yeah.
don't know enough about Sid Vicious, but I know he got a lot of hate for the whole Nancy and Sid thing, where they kind of ruined the band and they were mean to people because they were fucked up all the time. I just seen somebody in an article say that he was not a nice person. I've heard other people say yes. So that's word of mouth. So I won't talk about Sid very. Johnny Rotten he's got to be a villain. He's a pot stirring guy. Kind of like
Yeah.
Ronnie Radke for the punk classic punkers. He doesn't care what he says to nobody. He doesn't give a fuck. Hurts their feelings, pisses them off. Johnny Rotten doesn't care. He's got that name for a reason. Johnny Rotten is Johnny. He's rotten. So he was on my list. Now the next one, you'll probably argue with this one, and that's okay. But I've seen him throw tantrums after tantrums and just be a bitch to me. In my mind, Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day. I just don't. I don't like his actions, and it's not what people that know me will say. Well, don't bring I'm not bringing politics. This is non-political here. This is when he blew a gasket at the iHeart Awards because they were on a time limit like everybody else. And he threw a fit and smashed his guitar, and because they gave him 1 minute, he went on that tirade that everybody knew. People know what I'm talking about. And he just seems condescending, arrogant piece of crap to me. And I mean, punk's supposed to be punk and angry. I get that, but when you go to a point where you want special treatment because of who you are, that's conceited to me. And it's just he's top on. He's one of the top ones on my bill. I
Right.
haven't liked him for a long time, and it's a shame because I love some of Green Day's music. I really do. And American Idiot was a classic. I think that's my favorite actually, even though I love Dookie and that's. But Billy Joe ruins it for me. He ruins it for me. He's definitely a villain to me.
Yeah. Well, we kind of enjoy the art and we may not like the artist.
Sometimes, yeah,
So
exactly.
uh, I'll bring one in that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Motley Crue, as you can tell,
Yeah,
and Nikki Sixx. I
yeah,
mean, sometimes he's a hero. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff for addiction and trying to get people off of drugs and trying to stay clean. But sometimes he's got some shit takes. So is he riding the line between villain and hero? I mean,
yeah, probably.
sometimes
Yeah, and there's just sometimes that's the way it is. So you have they do good things, but they're bad. They're bad sometimes outweighs the good. Sometimes it don't. I mean, even say Axl Rose. Man, was he a pain in the ass back in pain in the ass back in the '80s. Just jumping out in the crowd, always showing up 3 hours late,
yeah.
jumping into the crowd when somebody takes his picture, and just starting feuds with other bands. Just dragging the Chinese democracy out fucking 20 years to make it or whatever. Just being kind of a pompous ass. I think he grew up in that time. I really do because coming out and he seems genuinely like a nice guy now. He did the whole ACDC thing when Brian Johnson was off. He's helped out other people. He don't hear about him anymore in a negative way. He's just he was a young kid that got too much too fast. But boy, he's on the villain list because of that was monumental. The stuff he would do back in the day. It's just he's gotta be a villain
Well,
at
so maybe
least for the '80s.
he's on a redemption arc now, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to throw in one. Dave Mustaine.
yeah, yeah,
So Dave Mustaine, when he was younger, confrontational and vocal about everything, and I saw him. He actually they opened up for Motley Crue, and he came out, and I'm like, oh shit, here we go. It's Dave Mustaine. First time I ever saw Megadeth, and I was like, and halfway through the set, he was thanking everybody, and he wasn't running
yeah,
his mouth, and I was like, going,
yeah, yeah.
who switched Dave Mustaine out? I
That's
was
another.
expecting
Yeah,
angry Dave Mustaine and redemption arc. I that because
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
he
you
got
know what
that.
I'm saying?
I think he got me winning, especially when he got that throat cancer stuff he had going on. I think it switched him around a lot to be more, thankful. But he was that kind of getting that way before that. They said he sobered up. He went to start getting into to Christianity and stuff. So he was kind of changing his ways slowly. But yeah, back in the day, Dave Mustaine yelling at people in the crowd, making fun of him. Ooh, look at your little pointer. He's got the laser pointer at guy, and he's saying, "I'll come out there and kick your ass." He was very confrontational at times. But in the whole Metallica split when they were having that going on, the only thing I can never forgive Dave Mustaine for and I forgive him. I would love to shake his hand, sit down, talk to him. But when he was on MTV one time, and they asked him about the death of Kurt Cobain, and he said, "Well, he's got really good aim."
Oh
That pissed me
fuck,
off. That pissed me off as a Nirvana fan, and I thought that's a cheap shot, you son of a. And I love Megadeth. I love their music. We've done a whole show on Megadeth. I absolutely love Megadeth. So it's like that hurt me. That
yeah.
that was confrontation. Hopefully, I think he's for the most part straightened it out. Another big one in back in the day, Gene Simmons. People just do not like Gene Simmons. He's brash. He's uh, just condescending and talks shit. And it's just and he's all obsessed with money, which is fine. But people just don't like him. And some of it's probably warranted, some of it's not. But he's definitely known as a villain, I think, at least in my opinion. And I'm in the Kiss Army, for God's sake. So it's like I don't really hate Gene for any reason, but I could see where people might call him a villain. He said some stupid shit before.
Yeah.
So be it. He's probably done a lot of good too. That's what it's like it's hard to judge a lot of these people just by not knowing them. Because there's a couple that you don't really know too much about. But Corey Taylor's been and Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. I've seen them both do some really nasty shit. But on the other side of the coin, they do good stuff too. But their nasty shit at some point wears the crown. But they redeem themselves, like you said, a redemption arc. They do redeem themselves most of the time. Backstage, I've seen both of them fighting their band members, screaming and yelling at each other. That's probably just part of a band that's been around for a long time. I get it, and it's like I don't want to say that, but then you get guys like David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth definitely a villain to me. Uh, just he just I wouldn't hang out with David Lee Roth, not for 5 minutes. If he wanted to come to my house, I'd say politely, respectfully, no thank you. It's just I do not like David Lee Roth. His
Wow.
attitude, his just the showman thing.
Okay.
No,
So
he's a
so
villain to me.
you might be it might be the arrogance and he could be an asshole, but
Yeah,
I do know that David Lee Roth was working as an EMT in New York
well, that's good that you're a
before
public servant. Yeah,
before uh, he got back with Van Halen for their last tour.
good.
So he might be one of those that maybe in the press, and because everybody, yeah, he was arrogant and he always was running his mouth. I think he was on coke for so
Yeah,
much of
I
the
think so.
'80s to where he
Probably.
came off as a bad guy or a fucking asshole or
Yeah,
arrogant. But it's kind of like do the actions overweigh some of what he portrays himself in the press?
yeah. I think
So
the
you know
thing
what
is,
I'm saying? It's kind of
yeah,
like he might be one of those I'm going to play a villain because it's good for press, kind of like the Nikki Six.
yeah, it could be. And he's
So
like I said, I can't make. I just say my personal opinions based on what I see them do. And I think it's another incident for me for him. It was when Van Halen came back together to accept an award on MTV or something. Dave hogs the spotlight. It's like, dude, they're letting you come back in, but you're not the reason people love Van Halen as much as you think. They were doing just fine with Sammy Hagar. It's just he didn't have any modesty at that point. And maybe that was an eye-opening thing for him. Maybe he saw it afterwards. Got but no, he's on my list.
okay,
And
I see
there's
why
some
you put him on there. I was just
yeah.
trying to counterbalance a little bit.
Well, there's some people that are on my list that they have done nothing to me or said do nothing in public really. That I just think by hearing them talk and the way they act, I think they're probably not good people. I don't not I don't want to say not good people, not my kind of person. They're probably a little arrogant. Well, Billy Corgan, Smashing Pumpkins. I love a lot of Smashing Pumpkins. He comes across as I'm better than most people give me credit for kind of guy. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's straight line saw the earth. He might be. It's just I've had limited access to seeing him in interviews and stuff. Neil Young's another one. The whole thing with Spotify he did, and then the belly aching he does about stupidest stuff, and he just thinks the world owes him something. It's like I agree with Leonard Skinner. We don't need you around anyhow, Southern man. Neil Young, better remember, we don't need you around anyhow. And I will say this without being condescending to the whole, but there's a different attitude over on the West Coast than there is in the East Coast. So maybe what he comes across isn't near as bad to people that they live that that's their normal attitude. I don't know. We're Midwest, man.
Yeah.
We got a certain set we go by. It could be as simple as that. Now, Dave Grohl, I talked about. The only reason he's a villain is because of what he happened, misfortune he had recently with the whole
Personal
caught
stuff.
on getting caught with somebody that wasn't his wife doing things he shouldn't be doing to them, kind of sort of. And yeah, that just shows a bad judgment, but it made you look bad in public. You were a little bit of a villain for that specific thing in that specific time, at least. I think people work past that pretty quick. Shit happens. We all know that happens. It's unfortunate that it mars his his contributions he's done on the good side, but it is what it is.
Well, I mean, it kind of shows he's human too, though,
Yeah,
to a
yeah. I mean,
point.
you make a mistake. He's living through it, and he'll be fine. It's just one of the things. Uh, Ted Nugent, he presses a lot of buttons with the whole guns and stuff. People are, he's big time pro gun, Second Amendment kind of things, and that it doesn't piss me off. He's not a villain to me, but a lot of people think he's too over the top with the the meat eating and those people get mad at him, and he expands upon it when he can.
Yeah.
He rubs the salt in their wounds as hard as he can, and he speaks his mind freely. He doesn't have
Well,
a filter.
I
It's
mean,
it's
Uncle
okay for me.
Uncle Ted is Uncle Ted. He's
Yeah,
also a
yeah,
byproduct of the '70s. I mean, there was some
yeah.
shit he pulled back in the '70s that was people kind of
Horrible.
were like,
Yeah,
dude, that's not fucking cool. So if you
yeah.
look into Ted's past, you know, it's like, yeah, you might ride the Patriot wave now, and but you did some
Yeah.
shit that might have been shady back in the day. So I can kind of
Oh
see
yeah.
where he falls into that.
Yeah, he's a villain to a lot of people, not everybody. Yeah, that's funny. Now some of these guys like Kurt Cobain ran his mouth a lot. I don't think that makes him a villain. It just makes him kind of cocky, and he might have been regurgitating back or retaliating for what other people said. But I heard he was kind of standoffish, kind of an introverted guy that didn't want much going on, and that's fine. One of the bigger ones got to be Lars Ulrich, just for the Napster deal. I think just the Napster deal alone would put him in that villain for that time and space. Not saying now, but I'm saying, and watching some kind of monster, the documentary, he had some moments where I would have smacked the shit out of him. I just me. But James was kind of that way too. I would have probably smacked the shit out of one or the other. But Kurt, he's too mild mannered, and Jason, he's like when he left the band before that, so he was off the hook. And Bob Rock was there, and he's like, Bob Rock was kind of feeding it into, well, tell him about it, Lars, or tell him about it. Yeah. So, but Lars, yeah, he's always kind of been not on my top list of human beings, much less drummers. But that's just me personally. He's done very well for himself. I can't say shit.
Well,
And
and in defense of Metallica,
yeah,
they do a lot of charity work.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I'm
yeah,
not saying that.
I'm gonna say fucking I see Lars as he's kind of a fucking ass.
Yeah, he
I
comes
haven't
across.
met him. I haven't met him. I can't say, hey, he is a nice guy or he's not a nice guy. You just kind of go, okay. Metallica has done a lot of charity work, a lot.
Yeah, I know, but I think the only thing with Lars for me is he's one of those guys that wouldn't shut up. You could tell him, "Hey, dude, can we just drop this? Because I'm getting kind of angry here. I'm getting mad. Well, why don't you just be in his little? Oh, I just think about it now, man. I would want to throttle him because just shut up, man. I'm trying to get work through it. Yeah, I can see that with him, but maybe I'm wrong. Could be wrong. Marilyn Manson was known when he was going through some of his addiction problems and stuff. The big fight, infamous fight with John Five on stage. He did bad, threw shit into the drum set, and he would just fuck the show up. And so I think that was more of a maturity thing for him, and maybe got a little too high up and come back down there. Had the squabble with Rob Zombie. He's had couple other things, but I think he's leveled out. So he was a villain for a moment. He's a villain in time, and especially with all the groups that thought he was doing, making people want to kill themselves and shit. He handled that pretty well. I mean, he was pretty respectful when he talked to people like that. So I got to say he's borderline villain, but yeah, probably was. Scott Stapp's another one. Scott Stapp's like he's on the redemption arc.
Yeah.
He had all his struggles back when Creed was, height of their glory, to where he got himself excused. You're done, and he admits it. He admits it openly. I was an asshole, and Mark and them guys, Brian, and they didn't deserve that. They didn't deserve the treatment, and he openly says it that he was a villain at one point. And I'm glad he's straightened out. I think he's a great singer. I've always liked Creed, and so yeah. Uh, Glenn Danzig. Everybody knows Glenn Danzig was a problem, and multiple times you seen him arguing with people, and got knocked out that one time by the bodyguard. So, and the whole Misfits deal where he was anti-Misfits. Now they're playing back together, so it's like come full circle sometimes. Glenn's probably all right now. He's one of them guys probably got a little too much in his own head. Thought I'm Glenn Danzig for God's sake, but leveled it back off. That's very good. And my last one is one that definitely belongs on both lists. He's probably the ultimate hero villain combination for me. It's Ozzy Osbourne,
Oh, okay.
because Ozzy's done so much great work musically, and then the TV shows was phenomenally funny. And now he goes out and does these adventures with Jack on all over the world. You can tell he's just a grandpa now. He loves his family. He loves to do what he does. But man, was he a train wreck back biting bats' heads off and snorting lines of ants and just being condescending about Black Sabbath. Uh, Ronnie James Dio was one he got into it with. Ronnie James Dio was not the nicest person in the world when you talked about that stuff, because he felt Black Sabbath was just as much him as it was Ozzy. I seen an interview where he was kind of getting pissed, and Ronnie James was like, never heard a bad word about Ronnie James Dio. So that's the ultimate for me though. He went from being this crazy loony guy,
The
pissed
Prince of
off,
Darkness.
the Prince of Darkness, to now he's the grandpa of love and joy. He don't hear much, and it's maturity. It's probably really understanding what you have, how good you've had it, how good you have. Don't take it for granted because it could be gone, kind of thing. But yeah, Ozzy he was a good villain when he played it. He's a good hero guy, grandpa, dad, husband, all that stuff that he is now. So he's probably the ultimate redemption, whatever you want to call it, both sides of the coin. Yeah, it's Ozzy. He's it for me. I think he epitomizes how bad you can be to how good you can be. And a lot of these guys are finding it out. I hope a couple of guys I really do like figure it out too. I hope
Yeah.
they come around to the good side, or at least the better side. 'Cause there are a couple of them.
Well,
Yeah.
and you never know. Some of it could just be for press. It's whatever impression you want to take. I mean, it was kind of fun to let's call out some heroes and villains, and I think
Yeah.
we got a pretty good list of some guys that earned the name, and maybe now are on their redemption arc. And
Yeah.
so
I mean,
people out there might agree or disagree with some of those on the list. Please
oh yeah.
comment, share, give us your hate mail. We'll play the villain for that. Or we'll play the
Yeah. Do
hero because we called out somebody you like.
some Yeah, if there's a bunch we missed, make sure you tell us, and maybe we'll talk about them at another time. But it's like it's just a list I just threw together a few days ago, and it's what I can remember and personal experiences of people I met. I think they're nice people. So, and like I said, we don't want to dog anybody because we don't know any of these people personally. We're just
Exactly.
in the public spotlight. They were sometimes villains,
And
and
that's
there's
how they came across.
yeah, it's the way of the world, man. You're gonna
Yeah.
have opinions. They're just like assholes. Everybody's got one. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap it up, Mikey.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
All right. This is Skeet.
Mush and Mikey.
See ya.
Peace out.